Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's workshop. This is workshop number 7 in our series. And today is really an opportunity for anybody in the crowd who is looking to improve their voice to learn more about vocal feminization and to be able to get some direct feedback on stage. We're going to be having a few different volunteers up, probably anywhere between 2 and 4, depending on the time, with each volunteer having around about 10 minutes on the stage. I'm going to go ahead and set a timer, and we're going to take a look to work on whatever it is, where they are with their voice. But before we get into that, I want to just ask a quick question. How's everybody feeling this Sunday? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Yeah. Great.
Way too hard.
Sleepy.
Perfect. Everyone's
I'm
always
a
like
bit
scared to be the
nervous.
first. No worries. So before we get into it, I'm going to go through a little bit on safety and a little bit of housekeeping as well, just to help everything flow well today. I also want to extend a huge shout out and thank you to all of our supporters who make these classes happen and who contribute so much to the Academy, as well as all the staff that really helps these events happen. So thank you all so much. So quick show of hands, who has been to one of these classes before? I see a few familiar faces yeah, a few of you. Cool. And who's here for the first time today as well? Awesome. A few newbies as well. Cool beans. Okay. So before we get into it, hello. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm the head coach over here at the Trans Academy, and I'm an independent voice coach over at transvoice.com is where you can find me. I've been teaching vocal feminization lessons for around about the last 3 years and absolutely love it, both independently and as part of Seattle Voice Lab as well over on the West Coast. So for me, my voice was a huge source of dysphoria for ages. My voice originally, it was like right the way down here. And I thought, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get a voice that feels authentic to me or feels comfortable. But lo and behold, there's so much that we can do with voice. It is so flexible. We just need to learn how to harness what we have inside of us here. And that's what today is all about. So going into safety, I just want to go through a few things to make sure that all of you, when you're practicing or maybe are going through some of this stuff here outside of the session today, are nice and safe as you go. So rule number 1, nothing that you do should hurt. If you find you've got any sort of pain, be it really sudden or if it's quite like a slow ache, do stop what you're doing, stop practice, and let someone know, either myself or another voice professional, to be able to review what's going on. No pain, no gain does not apply here. It should be all nice and gentle without any sort of pain. Now as well, if you find that after practicing that you have quite a bit of hoarseness, if you find that you're like, oh my God, after using your voice, again, that's a sign that something is going wrong. If you find that your voice is uncomfortable as you're doing certain exercises, again, it could mean that you need to pivot in how you're doing things. Often when we begin to work with voice, we can start out by applying tension in places that we don't need it. So you may be trying to raise up your pitch, you may be trying to change your resonance, and we'll get into what those terms mean in a little bit. But if you find that you're like squeezing and like tightening up, either in the neck, the shoulders, the jaw, the tongue, we want everything to be nice and loose and relaxed as we go. So if you feel the need to squeeze, try and let go of that to be able to find the right configuration for you. This is all about dexterity rather than like brute forcing anything to where it should be. Now, as well, if you find that you've got any unintended change to the feeling or the function of the voice, please do stop what you're doing and let someone know. These things can include hoarseness, as we said, a little bit of shakiness as well. If you find that your voice is constantly breaking all of a sudden, not good. If you find that you can't get as loud or as quiet, as high or as low as you used to be able to, all of these things can be a sign that something isn't going to plan. I'd like you all to stop what you're doing and let someone know. The good news is that a lot of vocal injuries, if ever happens, it hasn't happened to any of my students yet, touch wood. I don't want anyone here to be the first. But if anything does happen, it is highly treatable, but it's good to stop early on and recognize when that's happening. For every 50 minutes of voice use, it's recommended that you take 10 minutes of rest. And if you are one of these people that doesn't talk much, if you find that your job doesn't require you to talk much, or you don't talk much in school, if you find that, you really are often muted in VR chat, don't use your voice too much, maybe under an hour a day, then you might want to take things a little bit slower. all of us have our own limits. And today on stage, we're going to see a bunch of different volunteers, each with their own unique kind of problems. Try your best to get as far as you can with it, but if you can't make some of the sounds that I'm making or someone on stage is making, don't worry. A lot of these things come with time as well. This is a marathon and not a sprint. Absolutely a marathon and not a sprint. Some other things as well. There are some things that can really help us to be able to have like a really wonderful vocal health day. One of them is keeping nice and hydrated. Drink your water. It's important. So it's really handy for you to get like a pint of water in around about an hour before any practice session, because it takes a lot of time for us that fluid to reach the vocal folds and be able to work in the way that it should. As well, if you smoke, if you vape, tobacco and cannabis included or anything else, try and minimize that if you can, or find alternatives, because it can irritate the vocal tract and make things a little bit trickier. If you are on spironolactone as well, be especially careful with your hydration. Make sure that you're nice and hydrated, because spiro, you know, as those of you know, makes you shed so much water. So do be careful with that. Finally, as well, first thing in the morning, our voice is going to be tricky to use. When our voice goes to bed for the night, when it goes to sleep, it gets covered in a little comforter of protective mucus, and there isn't as much blood or nutrients going to the vocal folds. So this is why we have morning voice first thing, and I have it too. The first thing when I wake up is like, oh my God, like it's hard. But a little bit of a gentle warm-up using some of the techniques that we've talked about today, and that you can also find in the first video on demand at the Trans Academy YouTube channel, can help you to wake your voice up, ready for a bit of practice. So with all that said and done, I'd love to know if anybody's got any questions with regards to vocal safety or any concerns that they might have, or is everybody feeling pretty good? Yeah? Cool, I don't see any hands. No worries. Cool beans. Okay, so I'd also like to politely ask that while we go on through this here, please do feel welcome to try some of these exercises out, but with your mic muted if possible. And as well, if you'd like to have any chats, it can be really quite loud in amongst the stands. So please do take any conversations out to the courtyard, have a little explore, and come back whenever you're ready as well, just so everyone can hear each other and what's going on would be great. Okay, so I'm diving into this. I just want to check as well, can everybody see what's on the screen? Quest users, you may not be able to, but you should see a black screen with a little bit of text on. And I just want to check as well, if I move this here, come along, friend. Can you see this thing that says the filter source power on the screen? Does everybody see that? Or is it still a black screen? Don't be shy.
No,
Yeah, okay,
I see like the
that.
throw, I think.
No.
It's like
You can see the
Right.
throat with like the vocal folds.
Yeah,
I see an
know.
ad for
Okay,
Trans
cool.
Pride
Don't let me
VR.
move
Can I just
then.
move for a second?
Awesome. Okay, what about now? Can everyone see the diagram?
No, same thing.
You did
No.
with the ad.
Bunch of vowels and different.
It's still stuck on the throat.
I saw that for
Okay,
a second.
well, never mind. Cool. The good news is that's the one that I'm going to use probably for the most of today. But never mind. Technology. Okay. One more little announcement as well is that we always want to help the community as best as we can here at the Trans Academy. And so to that end, keep your eyes out. In a little while, we're going to announce something to have more frequent voice lessons throughout the week later on down the line. So if anyone's interested in a voice lesson that isn't recorded, that is a nice place for you to practice, we're going to be releasing a little bit of information on that in the next coming weeks. So do keep your eye out for that. Alrighty, cool. So before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about the different words that we're going to be using and how the voice really functions. Vocal feminization is all about taking 3 different variables in voice, those being pitch, resonance, and vocal weight, getting control of them, being able to hear them in your own voice, and then being able to target them wherever we want to. So having a nice high and bright voice with a really nice soft aesthetic to it. That's the whole aim of the game. There are 3 different stages that I find my students go through. Normally, my students take anywhere between around about 6 and 12 lessons with myself to get the tools that they need to be able to go out into the world and keep on working on their voice. But those different tools are really, really important. And there's actually 3 different stages that I find students are in when they're learning with their voice. So stage number 1 is going to be when you're just beginning to learn what the heck is going on and experimenting with these different variables, being able to change your pitch without changing your resonance. Number 2 is going to be when you've got a good enough control of these that you can start to build a vocal aesthetic, start to have the beginnings of your voice going, but it still needs improvement. And then the third stage is when you've got something that you're happy with, maybe 80% happy with, and you're trying to get that to be your normal, everyday voice, making it so that you don't have to think all the time when you're using your voice, and it becomes automatic. With enough work and commitment, and you're using your voice every day, it can absolutely become automatic. For me, my voice muscles and everything, my anatomy stays right here until, if I decide to go back down, it's a really willful kind of movement to go back down there. So keep up with it, and it will come. Alrighty. So the first thing we've got here is pitch. It's all about how high or low the voice is. So, all of that stuff. We've also got what we call our M1. Our M1 is a register. It's like a gear in the voice. And the M1 is our regular speaking register. Our M2 is a little bit different. This is our fluty falsetto kind of voice. Woo! It's going to be one of those. And I'd love everyone to try and have a little go at this with me. On the count of 3, I'm going to ask you all to go up into that M2, that kind of Mickey Mouse voice, that kind of high note and take on me voice. And we're going to just move it up and down together. I'm going to go first. I'll count you all in. Then I want you all to give it a little bit of a go with me. Here we go. So it's going to be woo on a count of 1, 2, 3, and woo. Beautiful. Great. Awesome. So we've got our M2 up there, that fluty falsetto, hello, all that stuff. And we've got our red M1 down here. That's our pitch, all about how high or low. We've also got our vocal weight, which is all about how hard or how soft the voice is. So this one I really love. I want you all to imagine a really cute cat or dog in your hands. It's going to be absolutely adorable. And on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you all to give me a really nice, really soft. Okay, it's going to be super soft. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and beautiful. Absolutely lovely and soft. That's perfect. So the opposite of that is a really heavy vocal weight. Now imagine this cat or dog is just thrown up all over you. It's absolutely abysmal. It's terrible. There are chunks. I want you all to give me a really nice again on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Please. Beautiful. Perfect. So that's a really heavy vocal weight. When we are used to speaking down at a low pitch, we are used to using a heavy vocal weight. In our anatomy, in our voice, it's all about our vocal folds, how hard they come together. That's really what it's about. So if I'm talking down here, it's much more in this sort of space to keep the voice going. If I talk with as light a vocal weight as I normally do down low, it doesn't work very well. So we're going to be learning to soften the voice out. It's going to make you sound more femme. It's going to make these higher notes easier to access and just be really good for us overall. Now, the third and final thing that we're going to be talking about today as well is something called resonance. Now, just a quick show of hands. Who has heard of resonance before? It's kind of a big buzzword in voice feminization. Yeah, cool, awesome. Good few of you. And who, despite hearing it, is a bit like, I have no idea what it is. Like, it's really confusing. Does anybody feel that way? Awesome, cool. A few years, no worries. So resonance is all about the effect that space has in the voice, the space within the vocal tract. There's this idea that sound is very much alive. If I was to grab this glass here, for example, and start to talk into it, you can hear that my voice becomes kind of strange sounding. It takes on the characteristics of the glass. If I was to put my hands around my mouth, again, the same thing happens. Now, for those of you that can see this diagram, fantastic. For those of you that cannot, I'm so sorry. We're going to take a little bit of a look here at this. There are a few different areas that are relevant for us here in the voice. Okay, so just a quick show of hands. Who can now see this power source filter diagram? Maybe some of you, hopefully.
It looks like a throat to me.
It looks like a throat. Oh no. Why is it like throat pill today? Oh no. Okay. That's so strange. I tried resyncing it, and but it just doesn't want to budge. Oh no. Oh well, never mind. For those of you that can see it here, we've got a few different areas in the throat. We've got our throat space, which is our R1, our mouth space R2, and our lips R3. For those of you that can't see it, there's this idea that space exists not only outside of the body, outside of the lips, but within the body as well. When someone is exposed to testosterone and puberty, a few different things happen. The throat gets a little bit longer, it gets a little bit wider, and so does the mouth. Now, we can hear this really clearly in our ears can just hear it fantastically well. So what we want to do is shrink the throat back down to its size before puberty with a few different exercises here. We describe resonance in terms of dark resonance being mask and boomy, and a bright resonance being like femme and glassy. So for example, if I go to this note here with a big dark resonance and then start to brighten it up, E, 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 E. Now the pitch stayed exactly the same. If I use it with a word, hello, 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 you can really start to hear how that lends so much femininity into the voice. Essentially what we are doing is we're turning down the bass and turning the treble up in our voice by doing a few different things. Raising the larynx, raising the tongue, reducing space within the mouth itself, and getting the lips out of the way. Those 3 different things are how we get there, but there's going to be loads of exercises and examples for this as we get in. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on in with our first volunteer. Now, let's take a look here. If you can raise your hand if you'd like to come up on stage, wherever you are in your voice journey, I'd like to see whereabouts you're going and how we can get you better. And the first hand I see is About Flower. Alrighty, come on up, About a Flower, and I'd like everyone to give About a Flower a big old round of applause, please. You need to be really brave to get up here.
Very hard to clap with controllers.
Tell me about it. I know, right?
Very happy to be here.
Hello. Awesome.
Default to the
Really happy to
ASL
have you here as
cheering,
well.
which is just-
Awesome. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start this 10-second timer here, and I'm just going to find out a little bit about where you are with your voice journey and how we can get you a little bit further along. So that time is just starting now. So tell me a little bit about yourself, About a Flower. A lot of abouts there. Whereabouts are you with voice? Have you just started with voice, or tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, since I found this place, I really started taking my journey a bit more seriously. I've always kind of wanted to
Awesome.
transition, but I've never really knew where to start. I've watched a few of your VODs on YouTube, and I've been practicing. I've picked up singing and karaoke, and mostly that's how I've been practicing with my voice.
Oh, beautiful. I'm really, really glad you found this VODs helpful and like the Academy helpful as well. I think it's like such an amazing space and the people in it are just amazing. So great, good.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you, 100%. When you watch the VODs, have you seen many of the workshop ones, or did you also see the first 3 kind of lecture videos there too?
First 3. I didn't get all the way through.
Awesome, cool. No worries at all. Well, what I'd like to do is just ask you to have a little bit of a go at trying this voice out wherever it is in the blueprint kind of stage. Can you give me a little bit of an example of this? And can you tell me as well about the flower? Can you currently see this rainbow passage on the screen? Is that coming up for you or no?
I still see the throat with the vocal cords. I don't know if that's supposed to be there.
Darn. No, sadly not. That's such a shame. Never mind. Well, what I'm going to ask you to do is use a nice old hello. But if you can give me like the best hello that you've got in your femme voice, please, that'd be great.
Sure. Well, I'm bringing it up now. This is kind of like my normal speaking voice. If I, warm up with some singing, I usually can encourage it up a bit more. But I'm trying right now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So I'm hearing that it's definitely got a bit of a lift. I feel as though like it's moving more dynamically as well. So this idea of inflection, like where we go with the voice, it's dancing up and down a lot more and it's a lot more expressive, but I still hear a little bit of a heavier weight and a little bit of pushing in there. It sounds like when you get up there, you can get there, but it sounds a little bit tricky still. It sounds like you're putting in a fair bit of effort to get there. So what I'd like to do is try and see if we can reduce that vocal weight and make these pitches that are higher up a little bit more accessible for you. And we're going to see how that kind of feels and sounds. So the first thing I'd like to go ahead and do is try and get you back into that really lovely, soft, kind of stage. Okay, can you give me a really nice, soft, whenever you're ready? Beautiful. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Now we're going to take that and we're going to go up in pitch a little bit. we're going to get rid of the movement of it, going from ah to just ah, and a nice steady pitch. We're going to start a little bit lower. We're going to start here. Ah, nice and soft whenever you're ready. Good, awesome. I'm going to take a big old breath in for me. Ah, and a little bit more air out as you go. That's better. Perfect. That shakiness went away. Yes, cool. By the way, can you do me a quick favor about a flower? And anyone else who would like to volunteer, if you can do this too for me, if you go over to your sound settings and just make sure that your mic activation threshold is all the way down, and that also you've got background noise suppression disabled, please. That way I can hear all of your lovely voice. Okay, so I want to try this again with a little bit of a higher pitch with you here, but that was lovely. That extra breath, I think, really helped to get it a little bit smoother. Let's try and go up here. Ah, try that for me. Gorgeous. Okay, here's the next one. Ah, right there. Good. We start to have a little bit of vocal weight creep in. We start to have a little bit of instead of we want the feeling to be like our vocal folds are just coming together. It's just where the voice emerges out of breath. Here we go again. Try again, but get even softer. Okay. Well done. Okay, here's the next one. You're doing great. Try that one there. Good. Again, a little bit heavier. Try and soften that out once more for me. You're doing great. Going from to softening out a little bit more.
Sorry, I'm really like nervous.
Almost. It's no problem. You're doing great. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I know what it's like. Honestly, like my first time on stage, I was bricking it. So I know how it can be. You're doing really good. Now, I noticed that as you went higher and higher, you got those notes. That extra breath helped you to keep a lot more stable. But what I want to do next is I want to start to go out of that lovely soft ah and go into some counting. We're going to go from 1 to 5. Okay. We're going to take the pitch down just a smidge. But again, we're going to get into that lovely soft space, and then we're going to go for 1, 2, 3 first. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Really nice and slow. Don't be afraid to take a breath in if you need to halfway through. Whenever you're ready, the note there is ready for you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, we're going to try that once more. Really, really good. And again, evens after this time. You're doing great. 1, 2, 3, 4. Give that another go for me.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. The next thing I want to do is give you a little bit of a more feeling and awareness as to when this weight is coming in. A good way that we can do that is to go through a little bit of a I've forgotten the word, a bit of a blend from one extreme to the other. So we're going to start with a really heavy vocal weight, and we're going to go softer and softer and softer while going ahead and keeping the pitch exactly where it was. So it's going to sound like this, and this time I'd like you to use a nice ah sound, as in cat, and it's going to sound like this. Ah, 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 ah. Try that for me. Beautiful. Well done. Well done. Okay. We're now going to try it on a different vowel. Sometimes it could be trickier on other vowels, but you're getting a good feel for this. Here go with an E this time. E, 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 E. Try that one for me.
E, 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 E.
Almost. Did that one feel a little bit trickier than the last one?
It's very challenging for me.
No worries. I think we've hit the nail on the head with where I'd like your practice to be. So exploring these different gradients, going from a heavy vocal weight to a soft vocal weight is going to be really awesome for you. And I know that like it feels so different. And as well, the sound inside of our head can feel really different too. When we're used to speaking down low with a heavy vocal weight, we've got all these kind of mental cues of where our voice should be. We have the vibrations, we have the sound inside of our head. But for this one, it feels like, oh my God, like there are less vibrations and it sounds completely different. Stick with it despite those changes. Okay. So another thing that we can do, we've so far just used a nice open vowel and another one, and found one to be a little bit more tricky, is use SOVTEs. Now, have you seen about those SOVTEs online as well about a flower?
A little bit.
Not so much. A little bit. No problem. So for everyone in the crowd, SOVTEs are a wonderful exercise, a set of exercises that you can use to be able to expand your pitch range and control of your voice generally. Now, what I'd like to do is one of these here with you, but with a really big focus on vocal weight and how hard that voice is going. So we're going to use a nice old sound for this one. Okay, I'm going to go with between two different notes. We're going to start off really heavy and thick, then we're going to get it softer and lighter every time. So it's going to sound like this. The two notes that I want to use are these. So have a listen to mine and see if you can give it a go. I'm using a lot of vocal weight there. It's a lot of beans to make that sound. Can you give that a go for me whenever you're ready about a flower? And those two notes again. Oops. There we are. Beautiful. Can you glide? That was perfect. The notes were absolutely superb. Let's see if you can glide between them. Give that one a little go for me. Try and keep the sound a lovely with your lips closed, but the notes were great. Now what we're going to do this time is we're going to try and go for a really heavy one and then a nice soft one right after. And again, don't be afraid to take a big old breath in as you go between these. So first one. Second one. You can hear how much softer and lighter that is, and that's our time, but I want you to give this a go for me. Once again, big and heavy, then light and soft.
And then
good, and the second one. Good. Awesome. So you definitely got that second one lighter, but I feel as though that you could even go a little bit lighter again. I also felt that as you went up, your kind of weight was about here, but as the pitch came up, so did your vocal weight. We started to kind of get a little bit heavier as you got into that unfamiliar territory. And this is totally normal. Often when we are getting used to speaking at a higher note, we're like, oh my God, it feels like it's all about to fall apart. I need to get really heavy to make this sound. There will be a few voice cracks along the way. There will be kind of a lot of, as you practice this here, but we have to let those things happen. When the voice cracks, it's going too far one way. And when it's just right, it's great. So allow yourself those kind of feelings, despite them being new and kind of unfamiliar. So what I would say for you, for your practice, vocal weight seems to be really at the core of this. Try and get lighter and softer without getting really breathy. I don't want it to be super breathy, but I want it to be lovely and soft. To do that, you can try all these different SOVTEs, have another look back at the first VOD, and they should all be there. They're also pinned in the voice channel in our Discord too, so you can have a look at those. And there's tons of info on SOVTEs, and again, that's S for Sierra, OVTE, and that should really help you out. Once you've done that, practice speaking at a high and soft space, maybe about an F sharp 3, a G3. Hello, my name is About a Flower, and just see if you can keep it there without it being too shaky. And while keeping that lovely light vocal weight. But really awesome work. I want to know, do you have any questions on the back of what we just did there?
I think I'm good. I could just do my own research for how to raise the vocal weight, but really good so far. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can I get a huge round of applause for About a Flower, please? Woo! Great work.
Great job.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you'd like to retake your seat, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Perfect. So really awesome work. And the whole thing there was vocal weight. What I found was that as About a Flower got higher up, that these notes sounded kind of effortful. They sounded like they weren't that familiar. By reducing vocal weight, not only do we sound inherently more femme in the aesthetic that we're producing, but it's a lot more efficient for our voice. If you imagine that our vocal folds are kind of come together, the higher the pitch. So a really low note, and it will get faster and faster as it goes up. Now, if those vocal folds are coming together really hard, as well as going higher up, it's a lot more taxing on our bodies. It's a lot more difficult to maintain, more fatiguing, more tiring. So by exploring that lower vocal weight, we can get more control, a feminine tone, and be able to get even higher than before. So really, really, really awesome work. Okay, I want to ask there, as we finish up with our first volunteer, if anybody has any questions so far. I'm going to go from right to left, and if you'll raise your hands for me just to see if you've got any questions, that would be great. I don't see anyone over here. No. Okay, cool. All righty. No worries. Are there any questions online as well, Shay, at all?
No, not at this time. There's no questions in Discord or the stream.
Awesome, no problem. For those of you, I can't talk. For those of you that are watching the stream, either on Twitch or on Discord, please do pop your questions in the chat, and we'll get around to those as well. Okay. So, oh yes, hello, Lavatic. Hi, how can I help? What's your question?
Hi, my boyfriend wants to watch the stream on Twitch, but I can't find the name of the channel anywhere. Where would that be posted?
That's a great question.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alistair. Perfect. Cool. Okay. And just before we move on, any other last minute questions before we dive into the next volunteer? No. Cool. Alrighty. So for my next volunteer, I would love to have someone on stage who's been working on their voice for a little while. Are these questions, or are you wanting to be a volunteer there, Vivi?
This is a volunteer.
Awesome. Well, you were so keen. Let's have you up. Awesome. Okay. Can I get a big all around of applause for Vivi, please? Woo! Awesome. Come on up. Perfect.
What?
Okay. So let me go ahead and start our timer here.
Okay.
Alrighty, and our time begins now. Perfect. So, Vivi, tell me a little bit about your journey with voice so far. How have things been?
Okay, so I've been practicing with mostly myself. This is about the voice I speak in every day, but I struggle a little bit with consistency. I drop a little bit every once in a while, especially when I'm relaxed. Sometimes I can psych myself out sometimes when I'm in a space I was in before I transitioned and I'm around people where I was around before I transitioned. I sort of drop into a lower register to sort of meet their expectations. But like I guess I'd say I'm in like the second stage where like I'm getting to a point where I'm pretty happy with where I am. I'm using it more regularly. I'm more comfortable. But I wouldn't say that I'm like there yet.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So I feel there are two parts of this, and what I'd like to do is pause a vocal assessment and give you some feedback in just a bit, but also talk about that really, really good point of using your voice around people that you know. So, by the way, can you do me a favor? I'm getting a little bit of an echo back. Could you push to mute just when you're not talking? That would be great, please. Thank you. Sorry. Cool. It's that little bit of delay. I'm just like, I can't think. Thank you so much. So we'll get on to the voice and the aesthetic, but I want to also address this idea of using the voice around people. Huge thing. Absolutely huge thing. I unfortunately have not the best relationship with my dad, and with my work generally, or with my transition. And I still find it difficult to get the same vocal aesthetic that I have now around him, just because of all the history and all the emotions and everything that comes in there. It's really difficult. There are going to be different levels of difficulty with different people, absolutely. People that have known you before, pre-transition, people that, that's really the main thing. Family members, people that have known you before, can be the hardest ones to use it around, because I think that we can feel somewhat disingenuous on the inside about the sound that we're going to, and the kind of difference, the disconnect between the idea and picture that they have of us in their head and the one that we are now. And I guess with that, I'd like to say that I don't think that there is anything wrong or strange about modifying the voice. We all do it to some degree. When people are talking to figures of authority, teachers, judges, 9 times out of 10, people are going to change their voice to be able to be in that situation. People talking to family and friends, all these different metrics of resonance, weight, and pitch, they all change dynamically. And so if we don't feel ashamed of, we should be targeting our own internalized transphobia and shame with general changes in our appearance, right? I think it's a good goal for everyone here to practice self-love as you continue to change and grow into the best version of yourself. And I find that sometimes that people are really good at targeting that side of things. Well, my presentation's going to change, my body's going to change. But then when it comes to the voice, it feels as though like we don't practice the same level of self-love and acceptance. So do try and do that. I think that there's nothing inherently wrong at all with changing our voice. No one has a voice, there's this idea that people have like a good voice or a great voice for singing, this natural ability. It's not the case. When we're babies, we just learn to use our voice as best as we can through mimicry, and we throw a dart at a dartboard, and we just kind of get what comes out. There's nothing inherently authentic about that. It will continue to change. So try and target that kind of sense of, oh, I don't want to do this, I feel ashamed, and practice self-love as much as you can is the best thing there. Outside of that, having mantra phrases, things that you can go back to. Mine is A-E-I-O-U, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And when I was practicing my voice, a lot of it in VRC, I was muting my mic, resetting, and then going back to it a lot when I was in that second stage to kind of keep things there. In normal conversation, you can use filler words, things like, like, so, just to get yourself back in the zone. So if I feel like, oh my God, I'm dropping because I'm around this person that I've known for ages. Anyway, going back to it, and just keep yourself going back up there. I know that it feels hard and jarring, but you can get through it. The more effort that you put in a short period of time, the better that you'll be at just getting past that. It will come. So just believe in yourself, keep it up, and keep on resetting. It's the best way to get there. Now, outside of that, we've got about half our time left, about 5 minutes left to talk about your voice generally. I just want to ask if you've got any questions about some of those little things that I shared with you there.
I don't think I do. I think that's actually pretty solid. I think it's just a matter of working on it over time for me.
Absolutely. It will get there. When I was using my voice at work for the first time, it took me like 2 weeks. I had my voice pretty much sorted out. And then I was getting her on the phone. It was great. Went to work. And as soon as I pick up the phone and be like, hi, you're through to blah, blah, how can I help? And I was in this strange kind of middle ground where I used to be and where I wanted to be. But by persisting through that, recording yourself as you talk through the day and listening back, that can also be great because dysphoria can skew our perception of self so hard. So record yourself, listen back. It's good to check in. Okay, now outside of your voice, outside of those sorts of things of getting it moving, with your voice of where it is, Vivi, I think you've done some fantastic work. It definitely sounds like the inflection again is moving around really lovely. Your resonance sounds really nice and bright in a lot of places. The thing that I would probably put you towards would be working on vocal weight again. The reason is a lot of us end up here. A lot of us will have the feedback that we need to chase vibrations, like have our lips vibrating, our teeth vibrating to feel like our resonance is where it should be. If we chase vibrations, then we can kind of end up in a place like this where, it feels like it's buzzy, it's bright, but it's still missing something. And what we can do by thinning out is kind of get away from that buzzier aesthetic. So what I'd like to do is go through a few different phrases with you. And just to check as well, despite our technical difficulties, can you see the board or is that currently not appearing?
It's actually the throat still. I'm sorry.
Never mind. Cool. We'll have to sort this for next time. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, I've got a little bit of a phrase here. It's when the sunlight strikes. Okay. And we're going to try it monotone and then it's getting softer and softer. So we're going to go to this note first of all. That's in a lovely pitch range for you. Can you give me one of these, please? Like a nice old, oh, come on, friend. It's going to be, sorry, my tone generator is just being really funny. Yes. There we are. A nice old right there, please. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to go from a really heavy vocal weight to a soft vocal weight. We're going to go for ah, ah, ah. Try that for me.
Ah, ah, ah. Ooh, a little bit of breath on the last one.
No worries. So what I felt there was that you kept the vocal weight, but it got breathy. So we were kind of overblowing rather than like softening out our voice. We went for this ah, ah, ha. It was still a little bit heavy, but had that more aspirate quality, that more breathy quality. Breathiness and vocal weight are not the same thing, but we're going to try again, and we're going to try that ah kind of induction. See if you can get that lovely softness again. Can you give me a really nice and soft ah, please?
Ah.
Almost. And again, imagine the most cute little thing. I'm going to free the pitch up now. And again, ah, so soft.
Ah.
Good. Okay. Now let's try and take that sound and go from heavy to softer and softer. It's going to sound like this. Ah, ah, ah. Okay.
Okay. Ah, ah, ah.
Good. Cool. There's one thing here that I think might be getting in your way a little bit here. So still can get softer, but a really good thing if you're all practicing getting into a light vocal weight is how we start these sounds. If we start from something called a glottal stop, it's likely that our voice is going to end up heavier in its vocal weight than if we don't. A glottal stop is where our vocal folds are completely shut together. Like if you were to say the word uh-oh. Can you try that for me, Vivian? Feel that kind of stop in the middle.
Uh-oh.
Beautiful. That's why you're starting some of these exercises. Now, instead of that, I want you to start with more of a ha. We're going to let the breath out, not getting overly breathy, but we're not going to have the vocal folds completely together. And have a little listen to this. Ha, ha, ha. Try that for me.
Ha, ha, ha.
Cool. So again, what I heard there was that we got breathier for sure, but still not quite getting that softer aesthetic. You did get better when you had that visualization, that ah. Another good one can be like talking in a library. Like, can you give me a shh, we need to be quiet, and just have really quiet, soft voice for me?
Shh, we need to be quiet.
That's better. That's where I want it. Cool. That's our time, but I want to do that once more. Shh, we need to be quiet.
Shh, we need to be quiet.
And then a nice old at the end. Shh, we need to be quiet.
Shh, we need to be quiet.
Almost, you whispered instead of but it was lovely and soft, and then we need to be quiet. Okay. One more time for good luck. Shh, we need to be quiet. Soft, soft, soft.
Shh, we need to be quiet.
Well done. That was it. You nailed it. Cool. Awesome. Going to get a huge round of applause for Pete, please. Great work.
Good job. Good job.
Awesome work. Cool. Now, before we wrap up, do you have any questions, Vivi, on the back of all the things that we did there? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, actually, one thing with the how can I avoid sort of that glottal stop that you talked about? I think that's something I run into a lot. I'll kind of catch it in my throat. I've really noticed that really often.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can do different vowels. So again, A, E, I, O, U's, uppercase vowels, small vowels, with different notes, but starting by being mindful of what's happening with the breath. If we start by getting that breath moving, if the breath is going through the system, the vocal folds cannot be in a glottal stop. They are mutually exclusive. So if you get a little bit of air moving first, that can really help. But as you work more on this and you kind of focus more on it, the proprioceptive feedback, the kind of feedback that our body gives us to tell us if our vocal folds are open or closed, is very, very subtle. So you may start to get more and more awareness as you work with this, with that feeling of pressure. Do you have like a kind of a pressurized system, or you're able to breathe through it and get it nice and soft? As long as you're breathing first and that's nice and open, then that can really help you. And I think likely that's the main stumbling block for you getting that lovely softer sound. What worked really well for you as well was those kind of situational inductions, right? Like being mentally in a situation like, we need to be really quiet, or those things really, really worked well. I found that the we need to be quiet one was perfect for you. So imagine that you're talking to something really small, like a baby or a creature, or you're in a library, or otherwise situations where you'd need an overall quieter voice. That can help you get that too. It is also really worth mentioning that vocal weight and volume are not the same thing. So we can have a quiet voice that is really heavy in vocal weight, 1, 2, 3, with a other voice that's a little bit louder, 1, 2, 3, that has a lighter vocal weight but isn't as heavy. So if we had a light vocal weight in pink and a heavy vocal weight in black, what we would have is that the lighter vocal weight, it can tend to get into quieter sort of positions. Let's say volumes up here on the y-axis getting louder. Heavy vocal weight can't get quite as quiet, but can get heckin' loud at the top. So whenever we yell, hey yo, we need to have a big heavy vocal weight. So that's just an important thing. Vocal weight and volume are related, but not the same thing, okay? You should be able to be lovely and audible while still maintaining a suitably light vocal weight, but great stuff. Okay, so I want to go through a few more questions now. And again, anyone online, do please file them all in. We'd love to hear it. We're going to start over at the left this time, just going through if anyone's got any questions so far, and I can see a couple. Hi, Claire. How can I help?
Hi, not so much a question, but a comment. I just want to say that starting a word with a glottal stop in linguistics in English is called hard attack. And there's a YouTuber named Jeff Lindsay who has a really, really, really good video about hard attack that I would recommend everybody watch.
Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. So spot on. The attack of the sound is the beginning of the sound. Also be called onset, having a soft onset rather than a hard onset. All of this comes together and great. Absolutely. Please do check out that video. Fantastic. Any other questions around out here? Siron, hello.
Hi. How do you differentiate between sort of soft resonance and breathiness, and how do you do the soft resonance without being super quiet?
So the first thing there is that I'm noticing there's a lot of different things coming together. With a resonance, I want you to keep that, conceptualize it as a separate thing. Resonance try and describe as as bright or dark, whereas vocal weight is going to be more hard or soft, heavy or light.
Sorry, vocal
can you repeat
weight
the question?
is what I meant.
No, it's no problem. Can you repeat the question
soft
for me once
vocal
more?
weight versus breathiness.
Yes, cool.
Yeah.
So differentiating between a soft vocal weight, light vocal weight, and breathiness, you can hear it as the main thing. If your voice is really inefficient, if you're finding you're talking and I can only get out a sentence or two, it's likely that you're overly breathy. A good way that you can feel this is by putting a hand right in front of your face, and if you're really breathy, you might feel a greater volume of air hitting your hand. We want just to maybe have a little bit so it feels warm and moist, but it's not getting blown on. That's where we want to be. A lot of it is familiarity and time, and again, trying to turn these different variables on and off. So maybe having a heavy vocal weight with no breathiness, and then a really heavy vocal weight with breathiness. So, it feels almost as though that breathiness can be from more of the power, more of the diaphragm, than maybe what can be happening in the throat. So trying to separate those two things out can be really good too. We can then go and try and go for a light vocal weight that's really not breathy and one that is. You can hear that rush of air, almost as though it's a whisper happening at the same time as the voice. Now, breathiness is one that you can have a ton of different options with. It's one of these wonderful things about voice where you can have lots of different aesthetics that you like. So experiment with it. It's not a problem as long as you aren't being inefficient, or if you don't like the aesthetic. If you don't like the aesthetic, change it. And if it's really hard to use, if you find that your vocal folds also feel quite dry when you're talking, that could be a sign that you're being overly breathy. If we've got lots of air moving through, you might be drying your voice out. So again, that's a great way to tell. Thank you so much for your question. Any other questions around about here? Do please wave your hands. No, cool beans. Any around here, please? Can't see any. Don't be afraid to shout out if I've missed you. Nope.
Rachel.
Cool. Yep. Oh, hello.
Rachel,
Hi.
there was a person you just missed Lilith there.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry.
small creature.
Hi, Lilith. You're tiny. What's your question?
Okay, so I'm still like very confused about the kind of thing I would do for daily exercise. Like, there's a lot of material and tutorial and guides, and like each of them talk about like different set of exercises, and I don't know like how to what to do to progress on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question there's a lot of exercises. How do I make progress? And I think one of the big things in being able to do this is to kind of reconceptualize exercises and what they're used for. So exercises have like a specific purpose. When we go to the gym, we have like a set of different exercises, to work on back, abs, core, whatever it is, legs. Awesome, Shay, I'll come to you in a sec. We have lots of these different exercises that can target different things, and we just repeat these exercises, and then we find that we get, our muscles work and we get our goal. Vocal feminization is kind of different because although exercises can help our awareness, they can help our agility. By repeating an exercise over and over again, you may not find that that actually has a direct benefit towards your voice. The exception here is SOVTEs. SOVTEs are fantastic for getting to those higher notes. Really, really good for that. But if, for example, some of the exercises that we did there, trying to get softer or a lighter vocal weight and a heavier vocal weight, that's only really going to be helpful as long as you have the problem of not being able to access that light vocal weight. Once you can get there and you've got that control, you don't really need to practice that exercise anymore. So exercises are a means to an end very specifically used. Resonance exercises, really helpful for if you're not finding that you're able to get bright enough or that you're getting a lot of tension, beautiful for getting rid of those problems. But just by doing resonance exercises, our final output, our voice may not change. So there are really two different types of practice that we need to be aware of here. We've got our active practice when you are sitting down, doing the thing, listening back to yourself and really mindfully working on the voice. And you've also got passive practice when you're just out there in the wild, using your voice at work with your friends and just getting the hang of it and getting those habits in place. Both are really needed for you to be able to achieve your goals. So if you're finding that you're feeling a little bit stuck and you're like, okay, what do I need to work on? I feel as though I've practiced these exercises, but my voice is kind of stuck here. You need to start to listen to your voice and start to think, okay, is my pitch too low? Let's try raising up the pitch. If I can't do that and it's falling off, I need to use some exercises to address those pitch fall-offs. Is it that my resonance is inconsistent? So I'm talking, but then occasionally it just keeps on getting darker and brighter. Then maybe some different exercises with resonance would help you, and then we can reintegrate that back into the speech. If you generally have just a heavy voice, then trying to get into those lighter spaces and then using those in speech is going to be great. But it's all about listening to your own voice and trying to hear these same things in action. Am I too low? Am I too dark? Am I overly breathy? Am I too light in vocal weight? Am I too heavy in vocal weight? And then trying out different voices. So for example, if we have the problem of being too heavy in vocal weight, hello, hi, 1, 2. Hello, hi, 1, 2. Hello, hi, 1, 2. Hello, great, awesome. And we can find something that feels a little bit better, that we like the sound of a little bit more. So listen, adjust. If you have trouble controlling those different control dials, exercises are great, but then it's all about listening back and making willful changes and trying to maintain them as long as you can. It's very involved with listening back. Record yourself. I know dysphoria sucks, but please, please, please record yourself. It's so important. Or listen back to yourself live. The Blue Yeti mic is fantastic for this. You can plug it in and hear yourself in real time without any sort of delay. That can be fantastic too. But really, really awesome question. Thank you so much. So we have a few online as well. Can you go through some of those with me, Shay? What's question number one, please?
For our first question, Sam on Discord asks, I don't understand tones. Could you explain them?
Sure. Okay. So tone is a word that can be used in a lot of different ways. And I think I'm guilty of this. When I say the word tone, I'm really referring to different pitches. Downloading the Voice Tools app can be a really good way to get these pitches for you. And at the bottom of that app is a little section that says tone. This is where you can have all these different notes that you can use to be able to set where your voice should be. So those tones, they can be described in either musical notes, going from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then repeating. So it'd be A, B, C, D, E, F, G 1, A, B, C, D, F, G 2, and that's what we call octaves. For our voice, we're aiming for being able to kind of sit at around about a G3, with lows as low as maybe about a D3. There can be a lot of movement in this too, but that's roughly what we're aiming for. I hope that helps to clear things up and how I want to use tone. I may also use it as like a general descriptor of the voice's aesthetic, but I'm going to try and keep it to pitches. Cool, thank you so much. What's the next question, Shay?
Simply Sammy on Twitch asks, what if you really hate the sound of your voice in recorded format? Any ways to get over the stigma?
Practice makes perfect. It sucks, I know, but try when you're listening back to yourself, not to evaluate yourself in terms of, does it sound femme? Does it sound like a woman, in our minds? Try and go back to listening to those individual compartments, try and listen to resonance, try and listen for vocal weight, and save the question of gender for a later day. That can help to alleviate some dysphoria. Some other things that can help as well, you can also reverse the recording and just kind of hear the kind of general vibe of it. That's a good way for you to be able to get a good kind of sense of, am I getting too low? What's happening, without you recognizing it as your own voice. The main thing though is practice and self-love. It sucks, I know, I've been there, but the more you do it, the easier that it gets. It's all about exposure therapy. So keep up with it and try and get better with it. One final thing as well, to help to distance your sense of self from the voice, try it in an accent. Try it in a silly kind of Russian accent, or like one of mine, like an English accent. See what it's like, and that can maybe help you to listen back to it a little bit better. It's all about creating that distance, loving yourself, and not evaluating who you are in the back of the voice. What's the next one, please, Shay?
Dorothy on Discord asks, how to avoid speaking too softly slowly when attempting a light vocal weight.
Okay. How to avoid speaking too softly and slowly when going for a light vocal weight. With anything in voice, when we're trying to learn, like for example, speaking at a high pitch or a bright resonance, going slow and methodical and deliberate at first is necessary for us to then be able to speed up later on down the line. I like to think of it like spinning plates. You've got all these different plates, the resonance plate, the pitch plate, and you're like, oh my God, there's so much. Try and make those plates a little bit easier to spin at first. And as you get better and better with it, we can speed it up and have it sounding more natural. I was very slow and deliberate with my voice when I started out, and I asked my students to do the same thing. When the sunlight strikes, and you can start to hear, strikes got a little bit heavier. What happened? Keep it slow and deliberate until you're ready. Is a great one. Walk before you can run. Next one, Shay, please.
This one is on Twitch from Anyako, who asks, I was wondering, how does one go at voice feminization if the goal is a deeper, soothing voice? What a lot of people would call a mommy voice or caretaker voice.
Absolutely.
I see a lot of soft, high weight reduced exercises, but I'm not sure where to go and what to focus for a deeper feminine voice.
Absolutely. Cool. So getting a lower kind of like mommy voice, or like kind of that lower kind of like huskier sort of aesthetic, if this is where you want to go and it feels more comfortable for you, really be aware of the pitch floor. Like if I'm staying around here and then all of a sudden I'm going to get down here, we need to make sure that we aren't going too low. It's the thing. So that's one thing. Take a look at where your pitch is going. Make sure it doesn't go too far down. Another thing there is, if pitch comes down, which will have, the average pitch is going to come down a little bit, make sure that you've got a lovely soft vocal weight and your resonance is on point, because it can be a little bit trickier to get that aesthetic. Number 3, although we're going for lower kind of mommy sort of voice, don't be afraid to go up high. We still need to have some of those high notes. So if I'm going down here, occasionally going up here, being able to do that is still really, really helpful. If you look at different voices like that in a pitch tracker or a spectrogram, you will also see that those highs are still there. So do keep on practicing, even though the average is going to be lower. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone's questions today, but we're going to have to wrap up here just for time. But one thing I would like to say is thank you all so much for coming here today, sharing your Sunday with me. I hope at the very least you've walked away with the knowledge that you can do it too. If I can do it, you can all do it too, honestly. Keep practicing. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your day. All the very best. Bye for now.